Now, it's been a summer to remember for Europe. The region enjoyed weeks of record temperatures as a heat wave stretched from Ireland to Russia. But it's also left Germans and British with little appetite for more sun. Last month, travel giant TUI warned that there was no sign of the late season sales surge that typically accompanies wetter, cooler summers. Now, the company's stock has dropped more than 20% since its May peak, but I have a chart in the last 5 years showing its nice progression. So what is it doing about potential warmer weather ahead, and how is the package holiday model faring in the age of Airbnb? Well, we're now very pleased to welcome Fritz Joussen. He is the chief executive of TUI, and still with us, Peter Dixon, of course, our guest host for the hour from Commerzbank. So, Mr. Joussen, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be here.
How has travel changed? I don't know how much or how little late bookings you've had over the summer because of the amazing weather we've had.
Of course, amazing weather is not a natural friend of late bookings, but we had a lot of bookings already in the system. So our booking status before the hot weather was already above 80%. So the late bookings have not been brilliant, but as I said, we have been quite resilient. In general terms, you talked about our company in the last 5 years. We have changed our business model quite a lot. We came from a trading business and are today more a developer of and finance and operator of cruise ships and cruising and hotels around the world. And we use our marketing platforms in the countries in order to fill the cruise ships as well as the hotels.
So how has our traveling changed, for example, in hotspots like Turkey? Are you affected by the turmoil? Are people shying away because of all the headlines, or is Tunisia back?
Now, if you do investments, we of course pay a lot of attention of where we do the investment, and there is a double diversification of investment necessary, diversification in the destination as well as in the source markets, and that means as long as customers want to travel, and they travel in the last 16 years, travel grew faster than GDP, so people want to travel, and then they choose different destinations. And when people didn't want to go to Turkey, they went to Spain. But now actually Turkey is coming back and is already on levels, when it comes to customers, on levels pre-crisis.
Okay, so you saw a couple of in Turkey, for example, because we talk about Turkish lira, I think, day in, day out on this program. Did you see the impact for 2-3 months with people? Is it canceling bookings or just not booking ahead? We
had last year, round about, we had in the usual season 2 million customers to Turkey on a worldwide basis, and last year we were down to 1 million. This year we will be back to 2 million. And of course the lira has an impact, but that is of course driving our cost down in destination. So if at all it has a positive impact on tourism, and that's also for the traveler important, because for the pound or for the euro they can buy more.
How's Egypt doing?
Egypt is also doing fine. Egypt is actually, again, a country which has come down after Arabic Spring, but now is back on good levels, particularly when it comes to Hurghada, Marsalam, a little bit lagging behind Sinai.
Can you take advantage of China? How difficult is it to do China as a tourist destination because of visas and I guess also local requirements?
Yes. China for us is not so much a destination, but a very potential future outbound market, because you have young affluent classes which behave more like the same age groups, young families in Western society. So we call it the Western style of holidays, sun and beach, which was not very popular in China before. And we believe that China could be for Southeast Asia, for our hotels in Southeast Asia, like the US is for actually the Caribbean. So a major local source market which can drive growth long term.
But so how big of a source market could that actually become?
Oh, it can become very big. Everything in China is very big. Nothing is small.
In 3-4 years, or will it take a little bit longer?
No, it is already quite a tourism outbound market. Of course, a little bit of different behaviors today. It's still city tourism, it is still group tourism, but also the frequent independent traveler. So somebody who can actually go on its own because, for example, is literate in English, which is very important. Yeah. The younger generations are that, and therefore we see particularly younger generation behaving more like similar generations in the Western societies.
What does Brexit mean for TUI?
Brexit is very important. Brexit actually, you could argue, has happened for us, because for our UK customers, the devaluation of the pound has happened, and that actually led to cost increases, relative cost increases in the euro for 20%. And at the same time, the dollar increased in value because of the interest policies in the US lately, where the interest was raised and here not. So the costs which are denominated in dollars, like fuel or aircraft leasing, we have 150 aircrafts, they of course are even more rising right now. Therefore, the dilution of the relative buying power is already reflected. The good message is, last year we had more British customers than ever going to holiday. It seems to be that people are not prepared to sacrifice. And
where do they go? France seems to be back, right? I was looking at some of the numbers.
The people have, the British people have gone to Spain a lot. Spain is, of course, now a much higher price, and new destinations are developing. Cape Verde Island is very popular. Croatia, extremely popular. Bulgaria is coming up. So it seems to be that there are more cost-competitive destinations as the Spanish prices and costs have been risen through actually the last years.
I mean, Peter's British. I don't know whether he's going to Spain or whether he's going on a cruise ship, which I'm going to ask you about next.
Yeah, well, obviously, I too have suffered from the exchange rate moves. My holidays generally tend to be spent in Switzerland, which is one of the worst places for an exchange rate perspective.
There you go.
Certainly Croatia. I'm interested in some of the southern European, Bulgarian destinations. I've never actually considered that as an option before, but certainly. I guess they start from a low cost base in the first place.
Yes.
And it's one of the things that they're developing at the moment. I mean, how many hotels do you plan overall to add in the coming years?
We always said that we would do around 60 hotels in 5 years. I mean, but that's not the only thing we do. We are also purchasing and committing through payment advances, to hoteliers and develop our properties as well. And we have been adding in the last 3 years around about 40 hotels, mainly in the Caribbean. In the Caribbean, particularly, the investments are very, very attractive because the demand of the local American market is so strong. More and more Americans get passport, and guess what? They want to travel. They want to travel outbound, and then, of course, the Caribbean is in front of their doorsteps.
What will the cruise industry, become? You have 3 brands.
Yes.
It's kind of, we saw a resurgence, I think, in popularity, but at the same time, some pretty negative PR.
I mean, the cruise business is one of the rising businesses in Europe, and we believe it will stay that way, because when you look, the American market is still advanced in terms of penetration, so more American customers relative to population than in Europe. At the same time, the Europeans are in generally are older, they have more available time, they have more available money to spend, and these are enormous drivers of cruise adoption, and therefore we believe cruise will stay very attractive. At the same time, less and less yachts can produce these kind of bigger ships, and therefore, there is a limited supply, a lot of demand. That is what we are betting on. And let me come to your point on is it sustainable or not? Yeah. All of our ships, they are very modern fleet. Our fleet is on average 5 years. All of them have scrubbers. All of them have actually all technology in place. Most of them are with diesel and not with the heavy fuel, particularly in areas where heavy fuel is not allowed. So
we don't have much time left, but I just want to ask you, overall, what's your biggest concern? So we spoke about the different segments, the different countries. Do you worry about geopolitics? Do you worry about foreign policy and, for example, trade tensions? Or is it more of the granular FX change and how many aircrafts you buy and at what price?
I mean, I think foreign politics like they are today, nationalism and so on, is never good. Not for the people, not for the world in general, not for all the people in the world. I think also not for the nations. I think globalization in general has been very positive. I believe, as long as our industry to outbound tourism is growing double as fast as GDP, not so many things go wrong, and there's no reason to assume that will be different in the next years.
Mr. Fritz Joussen, thank you so much for joining us today. He is, of course, the Chief Executive of TUI.